Hello everyone, and welcome wherever you're tuning in from. Maybe you're relaxing at home, watching from a bustling cafe, or on a quick break at work. Today, we have a story that will grab your attention right from the start, one filled with tension, unexpected twists, and a powerful lesson about loyalty, respect, and what truly matters in relationships. This is Motivation for Success, the place where we share real-life stories and inspiring moments designed to ignite your passion, bolster your spirit, and propel you toward your greatest dreams. If you're seeking narratives that dive deep into the human experience, stories that emphasize commitment, honesty, and the value of standing tall even when the tide is against you, then you're in the right spot. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button to join our growing community of viewers who believe in hope, perseverance, and the power of enduring values. Now, let's dive into the dramatic live TV showdown that left a newsroom stunned, a television host reeling, and an entire audience moved to reflect on the true essence of love and loyalty. It was a high-stakes evening on a popular current affairs show called Global Affairs Tonight, broadcast across the country from a glittering, high-tech studio in Brighton Square. The studio lights shone with almost theatrical brilliance, casting a warm spotlight on the two figures at center stage. On one side sat Donald Trump, a man whose name alone stirred strong reactions, admiration in some quarters, skepticism in others, but universal fascination. On the other side was the host, Morgan Reyes, renowned for her no-nonsense, incisive approach and, more controversially, her so-called gotcha style of questioning. Morgan's smile, like a well-rehearsed stage cue, signaled to viewers that she was about to put her guest on the spot. For weeks, her production team had carefully mapped out questions intended to corner Trump, dissect his family life, and expose what they saw as contradictions in his public persona. In their eyes, this was going to be the big scoop, the sensational broadcast that would trend for days on every platform. Yet, as the cameras went live, no one, not even Morgan Reyes herself, could have imagined how this interview would spin out of control. The segment started with the usual pleasantries, an almost ritualistic exchange meant to lull viewers into a sense of normalcy. Soft orchestral music faded as Morgan addressed the camera. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, we have the one and only Donald Trump, a businessman, a former president, an individual whose influence stretches far beyond politics." She turned to Trump, her expression polite but her eyes shining with the anticipation of a predator who believes she has the perfect trap. "Mr. Trump," she began smoothly, "you have built an empire, held the highest office, and rallied millions behind your vision. To what do you attribute your success? Would you say luck has been a significant factor?" Trump, seated comfortably in the studio chair, leaned in slightly, his posture betraying confidence. "Luck can play a role in anyone's life," he conceded, his tone calm, "but luck alone doesn't build skyscrapers, nor does it create thousands of jobs. Hard work, resilience, and focus, that's what truly drives success. And let me be clear, I haven't done it all by myself." Morgan's brows lifted at that last phrase. The conversation had taken the precise turn she'd been hoping for, an opening to pivot from Trump's business achievements to his personal life, particularly his wife, Melania Trump. Clearing her throat, Morgan pressed in further. "You mentioned you didn't do it alone. Could you tell us more about the people who support you, those who've helped shape your journey?" Trump almost smiled. He seemed to know exactly where Morgan intended to lead him, yet he remained unruffled. "I have my circle of advisors and business partners, of course. But I'd say that, more than anyone, my family has been my anchor, especially my wife, Melania." The audience in the studio, composed of curious onlookers, some ardent Trump supporters, and some outspoken critics, leaned forward. A tiny, electric crackle of anticipation sparkled in the air. Morgan Reyes's eyes flickered with triumph. She took his words as her cue to delve into personal territory. "Melania," she repeated, drawing out the name slowly, "now, that's a figure we don't see or hear from too often. In contrast to other political spouses, she seems more reserved." Does it ever strike you as odd that she's not more visible or vocal? Trump's gaze remained steady. I'd say she's not reserved so much as measured. She values dignity. She thinks before she speaks, and I admire that. Not everyone needs a microphone in their face 24/7 to prove their worth. Morgan's smile tightened incrementally. Certainly. Yet, it's also true many people feel they hardly know her. Wouldn't you agree that the public has a right to know more about the woman behind Donald Trump? Trump's expression became tinged with protectiveness. The public knows the essentials, that she's intelligent, compassionate, and carries herself with grace. If some choose not to see that, well, perhaps they're looking in the wrong places. Morgan Reyes maintained her poised posture but allowed a hint of steel to creep into her voice. Fair enough. Still, there are those who say her greatest accomplishment is being Mrs. Donald Trump. That without your name, your wealth, and your status, she might not be in the spotlight at all. A fleeting silence fell over the studio. Some audience members shifted in their seats. Trump's expression briefly hardened. Melania speaks multiple languages, has her own successful career background, and has taken on public roles that demand immense composure, he countered. The media might not highlight it because it doesn't fit their narrative. But she is far more than a spouse in a spotlight. She makes her own way. Sensing that the tension was building, Morgan asked the question again, more pointedly. But you admit your position and resources do open doors for her that ordinary people can only dream of? Trump allowed a near-silent chuckle to escape. Doors can be opened, sure. But what truly matters is what you do once inside the room. Melania isn't a bystander to opportunity, she creates her own path wherever she goes. The applause that fluttered through the audience signaled that many appreciated Trump's response. But Morgan was far from deterred. She shifted strategies, narrowing her eyes in calculated precision. Let's consider the nature of your lifestyle, Mr. Trump: constant media attention, intense public expectations, scrutiny at every turn. Some might say that someone like Melania never truly signed up for this kind of unrelenting spotlight. Is it not a gilded cage? Trump leaned back and exhaled. His tone cooled. You think it's a cage because you're viewing it from the outside. Melania chose this life. She's adapted to it, excelled in it, and done so with consistent poise. Not everyone's ambitions involve grabbing headlines. Morgan feigned a look of sympathy. But the pressure, it must be overwhelming. People whisper that she's simply overshadowed by your larger-than-life persona, that she's constantly in your shadow, living a life sculpted by your aspirations, rather than hers. Trump's eyes flashed. Shadows? Or spotlights? Because from where I stand, she stands perfectly on her own. What came next felt like the plunge of a roller coaster, the point where everything shifts from exhilarating to terrifying. Morgan Reyes, poised and polished, decided to cast aside her carefully constructed veneer. She cleared her throat and spoke in a tone that betrayed her hunger for a headline. All right, she said, an edge creeping into her voice. Let's cut through the niceties. You're a powerful, wealthy man. You could, in theory, be with anyone you want. Yet you stay with a woman who is, let's be honest, not getting any younger. Have you never considered trading up? The collective gasp that erupted in the studio was palpable. It wasn't merely shock at the brazenness, it was the deeper sense of disgust at hearing a marriage reduced to a disposable commodity, as if discussing a used car. A hush followed, loaded with disbelief. Trump went utterly still. A tension flickered in his gaze, a tension that spoke volumes before he even opened his mouth. When he did speak, his voice was low, steady, almost unnervingly calm. Trading up, you say? That's an interesting choice of words. It says a lot about your perspective. In business, yes, sometimes you aim for bigger, better deals. But this isn't a real estate negotiation. This is my wife. The mother of my child. Morgan tried to interject, though her voice faltered. Mr. Trump, He pressed on, refusing to yield. No, let me finish. You want to reduce a marriage to convenience, or a partnership to an exchange of youthful beauty? That's a cynical viewpoint. Real value is loyalty, respect, shared history, qualities that don't appear on a price tag and don't age out like last season's fashion. The gravity in the room intensified. Even those who had come expecting a combative exchange looked unsettled by how personal and invasive Morgan's line of questioning had become. The camera operators exchanged uneasy glances, uncertain whether to zoom in or pan away. Morgan's face had lost its practiced composure. I'm merely pointing out what some critics say, she attempted, her voice teetering. Trump cut her off with unusual precision. That's the problem right there, critics. People who stand on the sidelines of life, painting success as something shallow, easily replaced. They overlook that true relationships are forged in shared struggles, mutual trust, unwavering support. And here you are, on a national platform, suggesting I discard my wife for a younger version. A few claps began to resonate through the audience, slowly building into scattered applause. Morgan's eyes flicked around, searching for an escape from the corner. She'd boxed herself into. Her producer offstage signaled frantically for a commercial break, but the moment had taken on a life of its own, unstoppable, potent, and deeply revealing. Trump's next words felt like a thunderclap, drawing everyone's attention from Morgan's face to the cameras aimed at them. This is exactly why people don't trust the media anymore. You're not here seeking truth, you're here chasing a viral moment, a snippet that can be replayed for shock value. But you've exposed your own shallow worldview. He gestured toward the audience, toward everyone watching from home. Families across this country, across the world, have stood by each other for decades, through the hardest times, through triumphs and heartbreaks. Every couple ages, faces challenges, grows in ways money can't quantify. And you ask if I've considered trading up? Insulting doesn't even begin to describe it. Morgan's mouth opened and closed wordlessly. The show's director looked torn between cutting to commercial or allowing the unfiltered exchange to roll on, aware this broadcast would make ratings history, for better or worse. Trump glanced down momentarily, as if composing himself, then spoke with renewed firmness. You see, real commitment reveals character in both partners. It's not about external beauty alone. It's about whether you're there for each other in the dark moments, whether you celebrate each other's successes, comfort each other's sorrows, and champion each other's growth. That's not something you simply trade when a fresh face comes along. Suddenly, it was as though the entire studio inhaled and held its breath. Some audience members wore expressions of awe, others seemed genuinely touched, maybe recalling their own marriages, their own partnerships, the times when superficial commentary eroded what was most precious. Morgan finally found her voice, though it was trembling. I meant no disrespect to your wife. I was speaking hypothetically. Trump shook his head. Hypothetically or not, your question betrays the view that relationships are expendable, interchangeable. If you saw Melania the way I do, her strength, her intelligence, her compassion, you'd know she's irreplaceable, not just to me, but as a human being deserving respect in her own right. He angled his gaze toward the camera. And for every person watching at home, I want you to hear this: if you've stood by someone through years of challenges, if you've chosen loyalty and love over convenience, you're the true backbone of what makes our society strong. Not the fleeting, hollow relationships that can be tossed aside on a whim. The audience reaction was immediate. Several people stood up, clapping loudly. Others dabbed at tears, clearly moved by the raw sincerity of these words. Even those who were no fans of Donald Trump found themselves quietly acknowledging the power of that message. Morgan Reyes, pale and sweating, glanced down at her cue cards as if searching for any path back to safe territory. The control room signaled yet again for a break, but by now, it was almost irrelevant. The entire tone of the show had shifted from an orchestrated trap to a frank condemnation of certain media tactics. Trump took a breath, then delivered what would be the final, stinging blow to the interview. "You thought you'd embarrass me by suggesting I exchange my wife for a so-called upgrade. Instead, you've embarrassed yourself by revealing exactly why the public distrusts these conversations. You came for a spectacle, you ended up uncovering the ugliness in sensationalized journalism." Morgan opened her mouth, but no words formed. The silence in the studio was deafening, broken only by the hum of stage lights and the whir of cameras capturing every second. Trump stood, indicating that he considered the interview effectively concluded, and turned to Morgan one last time. "If you really want to do your viewers a service, ask genuine questions about Melania's projects, her initiatives, her contributions. But I suspect that doesn't get the clicks you're chasing. Good luck with your ratings." A thunderous standing ovation broke out. People rose from their seats, clapping, whistling, some calling out words of encouragement. Morgan looked utterly overwhelmed, as though she wished she could vanish from the set. The camera zoomed out just enough to capture the wave of applause echoing through the studio. Producers finally cut to commercial, though the real story was already etched permanently into the broadcast. Within hours, social media platforms buzzed with clips of the exchange. Some cheered Trump's fierce defense of his wife and the sanctity of long-term commitment. Others criticized Morgan's approach, calling it an all-time low for public discourse. Regardless of personal politics, the moment struck a chord. Sometimes, in the rush to create controversy, we forget the simple, profound truths about love, loyalty, and respect. This entire ordeal was more than just an explosive TV moment. It showcased an emotional arc that swept from tension to confrontation, then landed on reflection and solidarity. At the beginning, viewers felt the buzz of potential drama, anticipating fireworks. In the middle, the tension soared as Morgan tried to pry into personal matters using insinuations. But with Trump's resolute, protective stance on his marriage, the conflict released into a sense of moral clarity that struck many as cathartic. The story underlined the vulnerability in all of us, Morgan's fervent chase for a big story, and Trump's willingness to express honest, personal convictions about marriage and love. That vulnerability connected with the audience. Sometimes, we all grapple with how society views relationships, as temporary or replaceable. Hearing a direct rebuke to that mindset felt, to many, like a surge of relief and validation. Despite the heated nature of the exchange, what emerged was something deeper than a mere clash of personalities. A spotlight was turned on to the mainstream media's tendency to reduce meaningful bonds to sensational talking points. Viewers saw a man passionately defend the idea that long-term partnerships aren't about short-term gratification. They saw a host push too far in pursuit of a shocking moment, only to have that moment rebound on her. It was a cultural reflection. Are we too quick to judge others' relationships based on superficial traits? In a world obsessed with instant gratification, does the concept of valuing a spouse purely for their unwavering support and shared life experiences still hold up? This live interview suggested a resounding yes, that people do care about depth, loyalty, and genuine respect. In a world often fixated on convenience and cost, we can all too easily forget that genuine love and loyalty cannot be bought, sold, or replaced. A true partnership isn't based on fleeting novelties or quick upgrades, but rather on a steady accumulation of moments of laughter and tears, setbacks and triumphs, that unite two souls in a bond far stronger than any outside force can break. Each shared challenge and victory adds another layer of depth to our relationships, forging a connection that money can't replicate and time can't erase. When we start viewing the people dearest to us as disposable or interchangeable, we lose sight of the spark of humanity they bring into our lives. We risk overlooking the unique, irreplaceable presence of another heart that has stood by ours through every twist and turn of life's journey. Take a moment to look inward and ask yourself, do I truly cherish the people closest to me for who they are, the shared memories we've woven together, the lessons we've learned side by side, the unity we've nurtured against all odds? Or have I been swayed by the allure of constant novelty, tempted to trade in depth and loyalty for something merely fresh on the surface? In a culture where we're encouraged to always seek the next best thing, it's worth remembering that real human connection isn't about trading up, but about growing together. Reflect on the relationships you hold dear, those bonds that have stood the test of time, and recognize that each one is a treasure shaped by patience, compassion, and understanding. By honoring these connections, we reaffirm the simple yet profound truth, that our worth and fulfillment are often found in the people who stand beside us, heart to heart, through every season of life. With that, we wrap up today's extraordinary tale. It serves as both a cautionary example of how personal boundaries can be crossed under the guise of journalism and a powerful testament to the unbreakable bond that can form between two people who truly support each other. Thank you for joining us here on Motivation for Success, where we delve into stories that underscore core values like commitment, respect, and perseverance. If this story resonated with you, if you felt the emotional weight of standing up for someone you love, or if you've ever faced criticism from those who couldn't understand your bond, please subscribe to our channel. We share narratives designed to spark reflection, encourage empathy, and celebrate the triumph of genuine human connection over superficial judgment. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Have you ever been in a situation where you had to defend a loved one against unfair assumptions or insults? What did you learn about yourself, about them, and about the importance of loyalty? We'd love to hear your experiences, and we invite you to stick around for more stories that highlight the power of hope, perseverance, and unity. Until next time, remember, the real measure of success isn't just what you achieve, but who you choose to stand beside as you achieve it. And that, dear viewers, is something no one can put a price on. Stay inspired, stay committed, and we'll see you in the next video.